Have you ever wondered why it takes so long to close on a house? I mean, in some parts of the country, it's as little as 30 days on average, and in other parts of the country, it's up to 60 days. Well, what's really going on behind the scenes with all the inner workings of the closing process after you've accepted that offer on your house? Well, in today's episode, we're going to talk about how the closing process works for sellers. My name is Andrew Finney, your real estate geek. If you need help finding a top agent where you live, or if you simply want to drop me a line to say hello, my contact info is below. If you're new here, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel now and like this video. Okay, team, so let's dig into why it takes 30 to 60 days to close on a house after you've accepted an offer. In today's episode, I'm going to cover a lot of content, so I'm made a timeline down below that you can refer back to at your convenience. Depending on where you are in the closing process, feel free to go back to it as many times as you need and be prepared and be confident every step of the way through your closing process. The first thing to do is identifying what to do before closing. So when we're looking at what to do before closing, it really depends on where you're in the process. So for the sake of this episode, I'm going to begin like you just accepted the offer, and we're going to move forward all the way to the day that you close. So with step number one, what we're looking at in specific is when you accept that offer, then the very next phase is the buyer's going to be ordering the home appraisal, the home inspection, and there are also going to be some renegotiations going on here and also repair requests taking place. Pro tip number one, ideally you would have worked with a trusted real estate advisor and they would have shared the wisdom with you of a home pre-inspection, kind of like a pre-list checklist or pre-flight checklist before listing a home. If that was the case, then you'd be able to go ahead and knock out all the repairs that were needed on the house prior to listing it. But let's say that didn't happen. So what are the things that you need to be prepared for when the home inspector comes in for the buyer? You want to make sure that all your outlets, your light switches, your light bulbs are working correctly. You want to get your furnace cleaned, get the AC going. If you need to call out an AC service to make sure everything's good to go, you want to do that. You want to go ahead and replace those air filters in your vents just to make sure everything looks good. Appearances do matter to the home inspector, and the home inspectors may be a little bit more generous if your home is spotless and in good working order. So you want to go ahead and make sure that everything that you can do as a seller, everything works well and is functioning correctly. So what's going to happen is after that home inspection, the buyer's going to submit to you what's called a repair request. Now, keep in mind, it is a request. It would be a nice thing that if you as a seller are in a position to go ahead and correct all the defunct items that are found in the 1600 point checklist from the home inspector. Yes, I did just say 1600 point checklist. That's very common for a lot of home inspectors across the country. So they're going to be reviewing a lot of stuff with your house. So it's not that they're going to be hitting all the small cosmetic things. They may make notes of that, but with bigger things, do the right thing and fix the things that you can fix. It's going to be very favorable to you during the negotiation phase or renegotiation phase if necessary. It's something to think about, it's something to consider, and it's definitely something to prepare and plan for whenever you're selling your house. Now, the home appraisal. Let's say that you had a multiple bid on your house. If you had a multiple bid on your house, then what likely happened is your price got driven up. Now, depending on what that appraisal comes in, you have to realize that the buyer cannot get more home loan than that appraised value. So if for some reason that there's a low appraisal that takes place, you're going to have to renegotiate. And if you want your house to close, you may be finding yourself in a position that you need to reduce your price to the appraised value, or the buyer will need to come out of pocket the difference in between the appraised value and the contract price, or you two can simply agree to split hairs and keep the deal alive. When I say split hairs, I'm referring to, let's say it's a $10,000 variance between the appraised value and your list price. If that's the case, then you would say, okay, I'll go down $5,000, you come up $5,000. Now that's $5,000 the buyer's gonna have to pay out of pocket above and beyond their down payment and their buyer closing costs. So that's why it's also something to think about with just reducing it to the appraised value. I'm of the opinion that that's the right thing to do every day of the week, to not do any harm to anybody and to keep everything working well in real estate. At the same time, it's your house and you need to make the decisions that you believe are appropriate for you and best for your family. Step number two is actually preparing for closing. When we're looking at preparing for closing, now this is after the home inspection has taken place. This is after the home appraisal has come back. Everybody's happy with the renegotiations and everybody's moving forward with comfort and confidence every step of the way, marching forward to that end day of your closing, right? So there's 10 things that you want to do. Leading in with number one, right after all that stuff is done, you want to go into massive pack out mode. I mean, you want to start getting the boxes, you want to get the pods, you want to settle up with the moving companies, whomever is going to be packing up the house. You need to get them in there and start getting that stuff done and go down to the bare essentials to make your move out a lot easier and convenient for you when the time comes. That way you're not in a big rush. The second thing that you want to do is take special care in cleaning your house, and in specific, you want to go ahead and go through all those nooks and crannies inside your house where you may have stored things at one point in time and make sure you're not leaving anything. Go ahead and get in that attic. If you have a basement, get down in that basement and check all the drawers, all the cabinets, and make sure you're not leaving anything behind, because when your home closes, it's no longer yours and it's the buyer's, and it's legally theirs and they don't have to let you back in. So you want to make sure that you get everything out and be ready for that. Number three, you want to turn off the shutoff valves that could cause any kind of flooding or damage to your property, from the gas lines to the water lines, okay? Number four, you want to process a change of address card with a USPS and make sure that all your mail is being forwarded to your new address. If you're going to a temporary address, then go ahead and have it forwarded there, or to a family member if that's what your preference is. So make sure that you're getting that taken care of. Number 5, you want to begin notifying your creditors, your family, your friends, and any subscriptions that you have of your new change of address. Number 6, you want to begin gathering all the receipts, manuals for your appliances, and any other information that the buyer should know about your house. If you have a pool, who's your pool cleaning service? If you have an AC person that comes out twice a year, once to service the furnace and once to service the AC before the fall and summer seasons, please go ahead and provide that information as well, along with any landscaping information. Whatever it takes to maintain the house the way that you have maintained it, please provide that to the buyer. It'll go a long ways and demonstrate good faith. Number 7, the title company is going to reach out to you and gather what's called a statement of personal information. Be prepared to give them your social security number along with your bank information so that they can go ahead and get ready to do the mortgage payoff. Now, if your mortgage is already paid off, they'll still need this information to process your net proceeds with the money that's coming back to you. Number 8, the title officer will also reach out to you for what's called a mortgage payoff authorization. With the mortgage payoff authorization, that's not saying that you have to contact your bank and get that done. The title officer will actually take care of that themselves. What they need from you is your authorization to do that. So please contact them and provide all your mortgage information and whom to contact, along with any contact numbers, emails that you may have, and the account number for the mortgage company that you're working with. Then what will happen is whenever you get ready to close, they'll go ahead and pay that off for you so that you don't even have to worry about that remaining balance on your mortgage. And of course, if you don't have a mortgage, then this step wouldn't apply to you. Number 9 is providing your bank account and routing information where you would like your money wired to. Now, you do have a few different options when you get ready to close. They're going to ask you if you want your proceeds wired to you or if you want a check. They'll give you the option of picking it up from their office, mailing it to your new address. Most families just choose to have the money wired directly to their account, which generally takes about 24 to 72 hours after closing to get that over to you, okay? And number 10 is to remember to have fun during this process. You're selling a house. This is a process that most of us will only ever go through 2 or 3 times over the course of a lifetime. So make sure you're enjoying yourself and having a lot of fun. The third step is the seller's closing checklist. So with the seller's closing checklist, it's going to help you be ready for closing date. Now, this is after all the terms of sale have been fully negotiated and your buyer will agree on the closing date and location with the title company, whether they're going to be doing a mobile notary service or actually meeting up with the title company to do that. Before your closing date, the escrow will order what's called a preliminary title report, including your payoff balances from your lender, if it's applicable, and your property tax information. Behind the scenes, what's taking place is that the buyer and their agent will be working to resolve all aspects of the home sale on their end, ironing out any of the financing contingency, appraisal contingencies, and removing any inspection contingencies once both parties have agreed to settle. The day before closing, the title officer is going to reach out to you and give you what's called an estimated settlement statement. With the estimated settlement statement, you want to take a few moments and actually review line by line all of the fees that are going to be broke down that you're paying for and what the buyer's paying for as well. Now, ask your trusted real estate advisor to review this with you. Generally, in practice, what I see here is the title officer will send it to me before they send it to my client. I review it. I make sure all the numbers look right, and if they don't look right, I give them a really quick call to get it fixed. Most cases, these title officers are extremely good, and they do a very good job of getting everything right the first time. But your trusted real estate advisor should be reviewing that for you prior to you getting it. That way they can explain it to you if you have any questions and go over it line by line with you to answer any and all questions that you have, so you have full comfort and confidence every step of the way. So there's 6 things that you need to be prepared to bring to closing. Number 1, you wanted to have your photo IDs ready to go for any and all sellers that were on the contract. Number 2, any questions you have regarding your closing statement. Does everything make sense? Does it not make sense? Whatever the case may be, you need to be prepared to ask those questions at that time. Number 3, don't forget to have a pen. Now, obviously, they're going to have pens for you, but sometimes people have a lucky pen and they want to sign with that. Don't forget your lucky pen. Number 4, the deed to your home, if you own your house outright, will be needed to have at the closing table as well. Number 5, you want to have your main keys and your security codes ready to go. Now, ideally, you will put those on the kitchen counter or in the kitchen drawer so that everything's ready to go. Put it inside a Ziploc bag, including the mailbox keys and any other keys, clickers, garage remotes, gate codes, any kind of gate remotes or anything that you may have. Put it inside that Ziploc bag, and please label the keys and let everyone know what we're looking at. It's just very simple to take a Dymo label or some kind of label and say, hey, this is the house key, this is the back door key, this is the pool key, this is the mailbox key, and cite the mailbox number and where it's located within the community. It'll help that buyer get better acclimated into their new home. Number 6, you want to actually have the documentation of any repair receipts that you may have had per the purchase agreement to turn over if you haven't already done that yet in the closing process. Ideally, you would have done this some weeks ago before we ever got to this point. But at the end of the day, some of these repairs can take a little bit of time, and maybe you weren't able to get to it until just a few days before closing. Bring the repair receipt in with you so that your trusted real estate advisor can get that over to the buyer agent immediately. And of course, we're going to have things as trusted real estate advisors, escrow title officers, attorneys, and the attorney states that require them, and the closing agents are going to need to have available as well. So what we're going to have is that we're going to have the title officer bringing in your mortgage and loan payoff information to make sure that's ready to go. The escrow account information is going to be there. The official settlement statement is going to be there ready to go for you, and any kind of inspection agreements that may have been needed during the closing process. And number 5, we'd also be taking a look at the termite inspections, pest inspections that may be required depending on what kind of loan type and what kind of area you're living in the country, and your property tax information. Once everybody is there at the title company, right, depending on where you are, you may actually be meeting the buyer of your new home if you haven't already yet done so at the closing table. In some parts of the country, like in Las Vegas, Nevada, a buyer and seller typically never meet each other unless they come across each other in passing whenever they saw the house or during the home inspection or appraisal processes. So it's not uncommon that in certain parts of the country the buyer and seller never meet. In other parts of the country, it's completely common that this happens and everybody settles up at the closing table right there on the spot. So it just depends on where you are when you're watching this video. All the same, everybody will be there. Your trusted real estate advisor should always attend the closing appointment with you. The title officer will be there, the notary will be there, and answer any questions that you may have as you're signing your final closing documents. The 5th step is to be prepared for your seller related closing costs. Now, obviously, you should have had these conversations with your trusted real estate advisor prior to ever listing, and they should have provided you with what's called an estimated net proceeds sheet, which broke down in an estimated format how much it's going to cost to sell your home and about how much money you should be able to walk away from. Prior to accepting the offer on your home, they should have broke down another estimated net proceeds based upon the terms of that contract to show you how much you should be able to walk away from and what the costs are looking like after you close on your house. In specific, an estimated net proceeds can be broke down into 6 main categories. The first one is the remaining balance of your mortgage if applicable. The second part, of course, is the agent commissions that were paid out that you agreed to whenever you listed the property. Depending on where you are in the country, these things could range anywhere between like 5% to 7%. It just depends. Everything's negotiable, so it's whatever you and your trusted real estate advisor negotiated prior to listing your home. Number 3, in your property taxes, your utility breakdown with like the last bills, your HOA dues, your homeowner's insurance, and other bills related to the sale of your house. Number 5, the title fees and any real property transfer tax involved with selling your house based upon your county. Number 6, your escrow fees, and in some cases, if you have attorneys, there are fees as well. So pro tip number 2 here, when you get ready to close, I mean, this is like obviously the last day. So you don't want to cancel your homeowner's insurance just yet. You want to leave it active until after you have closed on the house. And the reason being is to make sure that everything closes on the buyer's side and that you're not left standing without homeowner's insurance if, God forbid, something blew up at the last moment. Sometimes these things happen because lenders do have what's called a soft pull or a last minute credit check, if you will, prior to closing on the home loan for the buyer. If that buyer made a mistake or if that buyer did something stupid, because frankly it is that, it would be something stupid that the buyer had to do, like buying a truck in the middle of the closing process, which is a big no-no. But if they did something like that and they lost their credit score that they needed for the home loan, or if it threw off what's called their debt to income ratios, this could happen a few days before closing. So we want you to be well prepared, and we don't want you without homeowner's insurance. So leave your homeowner's insurance on your home for probably 3 to 5 days after the closing, or after you've immediately closed. Then you can call them once it's legally transferred to the buyer name and go ahead and cancel it along with your utilities. Leave your utilities on running through 2 to 3 days after closing, depending on when you're closing. Let's say that you close like on a Friday, right? Well, if in your area it's common that not all the utilities will be able to turn on for the buyer until the following Monday, then it would be a courteous thing to do to go ahead and leave the utilities on until a Monday. Now, ideally, the buyer and the buyer agents are on top of their game, and they're made sure that they went ahead and transferred those utilities anywhere between 7 days and 10 days before now, which is your closing date. The next thing that you want to do is go ahead and schedule a professional house cleaning. It is the polite and right thing to do to have your house professionally cleaned after all of your stuff has been vacated from that property. Let's finish it strong by having that house ready to go for the incoming buyers so that they can move in and begin making your house their new home. So the 6th step is, what do you do after closing? Now's the time to make sure that we wrap everything up in a nice little bow and make sure that we keep a copy of every single thing that you got during the sale of your home, from your closing documents to your closing disclosures to, if you have an attorney, their paperwork as well. You know that your tax advisor is going to be asking you for that information. They always ask us every single year, did you buy or sell a home within the last 12 months? So we want to make sure that we have that documentation ready to go for them because they're going to ask for it, right? So keep it in a safe and secure place. There's 3 other steps that you want to take right after you close. You want to make sure that you turn off your utilities and that they're transferred out of your name. Number 2, now is the time to cancel your homeowner's insurance policy and make sure that if you bought your new home that it's active on that house as well. And number 3, it's time to file your closing paperwork in a safe and secure place. Now, this has been a very involved video with how this closing process works when selling a house. Now what I'd like you to do is tell me what you took away from this episode in the comment section below, along with any of your tips about the closing process when selling a house. I'm going to go ahead and pop up my contact information. If you want to drop me a line to say hello, if you simply need help finding a top agent where you live, please let me know. I always love to hear from you. If you haven't already done so, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. Number 1, please subscribe to this channel. Number 2, please like this video. Number 3, please please share this video around with someone you know is going to be able to help. Because just like you, I'm sure you know of someone else that would like to know how the closing process works when selling a house. Please go ahead and share this video with them. Thank you for watching today, team, and in between now and next time, I'm wishing you and yours a lifetime full of love, wealth, abundance, and happiness. Enjoy an amazing day.